What if the connection you wanted isn't missing? What if it is waiting on the other side of something you've just been afraid to show? Imagine your future self, the version of you who feels deeply connected. And it's not because everyone stayed, not because every relationship worked out, but because you stopped hiding from the people who were genuinely trying to get to know you. Imagine they were sitting beside you quietly and said, "You spent so much time wondering why people didn't understand you." But very few people ever got to meet the real you. They met the careful version, the strong version, the version that knew how to carry everything alone, the version that knew how to say, "I'm fine," the version that knew how to smile when something inside was hurting. Connection wasn't missing. The visibility was. Because connection isn't built when people understand the version of you that feels safe to share. It is built when they are trusting parts of you that feel harder to reveal. Being known requires access, and access requires courage. So where in your relationship, are you asking for understanding without offering visibility? Sometimes I think about how many people feel lonely when supported, when they're surrounded by people that care about them. And it's not because they're alone, but because no one really knows what is happening inside. And I understand that. Most of us don't wake up one day and decide to hide. Usually there's a reason. Maybe you felt misunderstood. Maybe you shared something important and it wasn't received the way you hoped. Maybe you learned that being vulnerable felt risky. So we've adjusted. We became easier to receive, easier to manage, easier to understand, at least on the surface. We learn how to say, "I'm good. I'm fine. Don't worry about me." And sometimes those words become so familiar that we stop noticing how often we use them. Sometimes distance doesn't look like avoidance. Sometimes distance sounds polite. Sometimes it sounds responsible. And sometimes it sounds strong. But underneath it all, there may be a feeling that never found its way into the conversation. And I think that's one of the hardest parts about being human. We want people to understand us, yet we struggle to reveal what needs understanding. It's a little like expecting someone to read a book and know about it when they've never been allowed to open it. And the truth is, people are not responding to who we are. They are responding to who they've been allowed to see. And the hardest thing about walls is they work. They protect us. They keep out the disappointment. They keep out the rejection. They keep out the pain. But they also keep out comfort, understanding, support, healing. The very thing we often say we want more of. And maybe that's something worth noticing. Not judging, just noticing. What are your walls protecting you from today? And what might they also be preventing from reaching you? I think about when I myself, whom I felt unseen, when I felt misunderstood. I'm who have quietly wondered why nobody seems to get me, and I've had to go through reflection and realize something. The answer isn't that nobody cares. Sometimes the answer is that nobody knows. Nobody knows because the real conversation hasn't happened. No one knows because the real feelings never made it into words. Nobody knows because we've been translating our truth into something easier for everyone else to hear. And I'm guilty of dropping subtle hints, hoping someone would see me. And maybe that's why reflection matters. Reflection helps us notice the differences between what we create without realizing it. The distance between what we feel and what we reveal. The distance between what we need and what we communicate. The distance between wanting connection and allowing connection. Connection through reflection begins there, with awareness, with honesty, with curiosity, not perfection, not oversharing, just a willingness to notice where you've been hiding. So today, I want to leave you with a simple thought. The people who care about you cannot connect with parts of you they never get to meet. And maybe your future self already knows that. Maybe that's why they've brought us here today. Just to notice, just to reflect, just to consider where a little more honesty might create a little more connection. And then I want you to sit with this question. What part of me am I hoping people will understand that I haven't fully shared with anyone yet?